Everywhere you go, something costs more than it did last month. Groceries, rent, gas. People are tired, worn down, wondering when it ends. And here's the kicker, it's not just that prices went up, it's that they're not coming back down. Even when the headlines say inflation is cooling off, life doesn't feel cheaper. So the question we all ask at some point, why can't prices just stay the same? Wouldn't that make everything easier? Turns out, the answer is far more complicated and a little uncomfortable. In 2022, inflation hit hard. Across the US, the UK, and Europe, prices rose nearly 10% compared to the year before. A family that used to spend $100 a week on groceries now needed $110 and still left with less in the cart. Things have settled a bit since then, but here's the catch. Lower inflation doesn't mean lower prices. It just means the rate of increase slowed. You're still paying more than you were a year ago, much more than 2 years ago. And yet, if you listen closely to economists and central banks, they often say something strange. A little inflation is actually good. Wait, why would rising prices ever be a good thing? Why would governments want this? That's exactly what we're going to break down. 1. Why governments want inflation. Start with what might sound crazy. Most governments aim for prices to go up. Not wildly, not unpredictably, just a little about 2% a year. This isn't a natural law, it's a policy. A decision made by central banks to keep things moving. Why 2%? Because it keeps the economy from freezing. Think of it like a gentle push forward, just enough to keep people spending, investing, and earning. If prices stayed completely flat, people might wait to spend. If they thought things would be cheaper next month, they'd hold off. That hesitation would slow everything down. So governments don't just accept inflation, they build it into the system. 2. The virtuous cycle explained. Imagine this. You're thinking of buying a car. It's expensive, sure, but you hear prices might go up next year. So, you decide to buy now. That's inflation at work. The expectation that prices will rise makes people act today. That creates demand. Car dealerships hire more staff. Factories ramp up production. Wages start to rise. With more money in people's pockets, they spend more. The cycle keeps going. It's a loop. Prices go up, wages go up, spending keeps flowing. And when it works, it feels smooth. Now here's the key. This system only functions if wages keep up with prices. If your paycheck grows along with your bills, life still works. You can plan. You can breathe. In the US, lower-income workers started to see this in 2023. Their pay began to rise faster than inflation's, something that hadn't happened in years. But even then, wages were starting from a really low point. And if anything breaks in this loop, the whole thing can go sideways. 3. When the cycle turns vicious. Let's talk about when it doesn't work. During the pandemic, supply chains broke down. Products got scarce. Companies had fewer things to sell. But instead of just waiting it out, many businesses raised prices way beyond what was needed. Some did it to cover costs. Others did it to increase profits. Either way, consumers lost. Wages weren't rising fast enough. Bills kept piling up. The virtuous cycle turned ugly. And this isn't just theory, it happened. You could feel it. Shoppers pulling back. Renters falling behind. People working 2 jobs and still not making it. That's what happens when inflation gets too high or when it's manipulated. Trust breaks. And when that happens, governments have to step in. 4. How governments combat inflation. So how do they fix it? Usually, by raising interest rates. This makes borrowing more expensive. Mortgages go up. Car loans go up. Even credit cards. When it's harder to borrow, people spend less. Businesses hold off on expansions. The result? Demand cools down. Inflation slows. But it's not painless. Higher rates often mean layoffs. Companies cut back. Families feel the pinch. And here's the part no one likes to admit. Sometimes, slowing inflation means slowing you. Fewer jobs. Less money to go around. It's a tough trade-off, and the people hit hardest are rarely the ones who caused the problem. 5. The threat of deflation. Now, let's flip the situation. What if prices actually dropped? On paper, that sounds great. Cheaper food, cheaper cars, cheaper everything. But this is where things get dangerous. If people think prices will keep falling, they wait, and wait, and wait. Big purchases get delayed. Businesses sell less. Profits shrink. Layoffs begin. Then more people spend less because they have less. That's called a deflationary spiral, and it's hard to break. Think back to the Great Depression, or Japan's economic slump that lasted decades. Even in 2020, during the early days of the pandemic, inflation dropped near zero. The government slashed interest rates to almost nothing just to keep things from collapsing. Deflation may sound nice, but it paralyzes growth. And climbing out of that hole takes more than just policies. Sometimes it takes something extreme like a world war or a global boom. 6. Why zero inflation is dangerous. This is why economists fear zero inflation almost as much as high inflation. If you're too close to zero, any small shock can tip you into deflation, and once you're there, it's a long climb back. So that's why the 2% target exists. It's not magic. It's insurance. A little inflation gives the system room to move. It's like keeping the engine just warm enough to never stall. So why can't prices just stay the same? Because the economy doesn't stand still. It's built on movement, on people making choices. Millions of them every day. Some days, things feel stable. Other days, the balance tips. Inflation isn't perfect. It makes life harder when it's high. But the alternative, it might be worse. The goal isn't to freeze the system. It's to guide it slowly, carefully through something as unpredictable as human behavior. Next time someone says, everything is more expensive these days, you'll know why. It's not about greed or politics, or at least, not just that. It's how the system works, and it's up to us to understand it. So if this video helped you see inflation in a new way, hit that like button. Subscribe for more content that explains the forces shaping your money and your future. And let us know in the comments, do you think inflation is necessary? Or should we be aiming for zero?